Welcome to General Ramblings by Dave Den, where we talk about accessibility and general things that happen in the web design space. Today's video is going to be focusing on the dark mode switcher, which is a popular component that people use in web design for accessibility reasons. You want to give users the choice to switch between the dark theme of your website and the light theme of your website. So what we're going to be looking at today is different dark theme switcher patterns on different websites. First, we'll look at the visual styling. So how does it look visually to the end user? Then we'll look at what is under the hood, the HTML pattern that each of them are using. Then we'll now see how exactly are these different patterns expressed to screen readers. We're using a Mac today, so we'll be using VoiceOver for this example. And the typical one is the example from the Edge website, where you have a button that switches between dark mode and light mode. And let's look at some examples of the visual styling. So I've added about 6 examples or 7 example websites here, and we'll see how all of them do it. First is Max Mansky. I think he just rebuilt this website using AI, if I'm not mistaken. And we have the common pattern, which is the moon switching to the sun. So for the light mode, dark mode. I think the similar pattern with Kevin Powell, who just rebuilt his website as well. We have the moon switching to the sun. Then we have Josh Como, similar, the sun switching to the moon. Edge patterns, the sun switching to the moon. And we have on the WordPress Accessibility Day a slightly different pattern, because I think they identified some limitations with the first pattern, which I will mention soon. And that is they now decided to make them separate icons. So we have the sun icon separate from the moon icon, not one icon switching between the two states. So we have the sun and the moon. Then to avoid some of the problems with this whole sun-moon situation, people like the MDN docs, they decided to go a different way. They use a kind of drop-down with text. So it's easy to see the text that, okay, we are on the theme. It has a drop down. Do we want the OS default, the light mode, or do we want the dark mode? So it's a drop down type of list. Similar to RNIB, they have a button. You click on it, it creates a drop down or a pop-up. And we have the light mode, dark mode, and the yellow color. So let's go back to light. Then we have a different pattern, and that is the 3-icon approach. They're trying to incorporate the OS default, but still have the icons. So that we have the OS default, then we have the dark mode and the light mode. Tailwind uses something similar. We have the OS default, we have the light mode and the dark mode. So those are the different typical patterns that I've seen. So let me know in the comments, which pattern do you think is the most popular and the one that you would prefer to go with? Next, we're just going to be talking about some of the limitations of some of these patterns. One limitation I will mention now is with the first pattern, and it came from a discussion that was held on X. I think it was Kevin Gear that mentioned it. And the discussion says, what do you expect to see as the icon when you're on the light mode? Do you expect to see the sun or the moon icon? So which icon should be there when you're on the light mode? Let's take a look at the examples again. Maybe you may have missed it, but let's look at it. So going back to the Max Mansky's website, you'll notice that we are currently on the light mode, and what is shown is the moon icon. So it's showing you the opposite states. It's showing you what is going to happen when you click on it. If you go to Kevin Powell, same thing. The moon icon, because that's what's going to happen when you click on it. You're going to go to the dark mode when you click on it. Now, if you look at Josh Como, it's the opposite. Because we're on the light mode, it's showing you the sun icon. When you now go to the dark mode, it shows you the moon icon. So it's the opposite. I think that's the same approach that the Edge team are using, that it shows you the sun icon when it's on the light mode and the moon icon when it's on the dark mode. That now poses the problem, which is why the WP Accessibility Day team, they try to avoid as much ambiguity as possible, which is why they decided to go for the 2-icon approach, so that you can see it clearly that there are two icons. And why this method is a bit better visually is that typically our brain uses kind of like a contrast to know what is going on. So we try to see what is the surrounding, and then we now use that to give us an idea of what is the current active element. So what do I mean? Because we can see the surrounding elements, that one doesn't have a focused icon like a box shadow or anything on it. So we know that, okay, this is now the active state. The active state is the light mode. We can easily see it. We can also see other example icons by the side that whenever the icon has no background, it means it's not active. But when it has a background, it means it is active. So easy for the brain to understand. That is the limitation with this whole situation of a one icon approach. Because I know the argument that was mentioned on X is that when you have a light switch, do you expect the on state to be with the switch on the on part of the switch, or do you expect the on state to be with the switch on the off part of the switch? So that was the argument. And that, okay, with your operating systems like maybe your Android, iOS, don't you expect that when you say the Wi-Fi button, for example, when it's active, then the Wi-Fi symbol is on the active symbol. When it's not active, then you have that cross sign on your Wi-Fi symbol to say, okay, the Wi-Fi is turned off. So that was the argument that was used, that usually the active state is what is shown to the user. And yeah, I think I agree to an extent with that whole situation. But then we now come to the second argument. What of a play pause button? When a video is playing, what icon do you expect to see to pause the video? Do you expect to see a play button again to pause the video, or you expect to see a different button, which is the pause button? Because you want to see that button that tells you the action that's going to be taken when you click on it. So there's always a case for both sides. And I think it all boils down to the fact that with most of these other ones we talked about, which is like the light switch, like the Wi-Fi button, for all of them, we have a function or a property that we are turning on or off. It's not like we're changing between two separate states. We're either turning on or off one particular state. So we're turning the light, the physical light bulb is either turned on or off. The Wi-Fi is either turned on or off. So it's easier for us to know that it's just one symbol that is being turned on or off. But the moment we are switching between two distinct states, it becomes a bit confusing, like the play pause button. We're not just having the play button that crosses out. We are changing from a play button to a pause button. We're changing two distinct states. That's not like an on-off state. So that's why I believe that we're now expecting to see what is the action that will be taken when we click on it, rather than what is the current state of the element. So yeah, I think if anybody has a better explanation of this whole state, let me know in the comments. But I think that's why with the WP Accessibility Day, they just decided to go away from this approach and they used two distinct icons. So it's easier for everybody to see. So now that we're done looking at the visual styling, let's take a look at the HTML structure for the different examples. A dark mode switcher is an interactive element, so we need to start with an interactive HTML element. For example, a button, a checkbox, a video button, or a select field. Those are elements that the user can interact with. So let's look at each of the different examples. We'll take a look at the HTML element. We'll also look at the name, role, and value of how it is presented to screen readers. At the end, we may now use a screen reader to actually do a test, but for now, we'll just look at the HTML, look at what is changing in the HTML. Ideally, with any interactive element, what we want to ensure is that we have a name, a role, and a possible property or state. So something like aria-checked, aria-pressed, aria-expanded. The second thing we need to do is that if one of those elements is changing on interaction, the other two must remain constant. You know, in physics, we always have that thing that keeping temperature and pressure constant, then we'll talk about something else. So keep the two of them constant and only change the other property. So if you are changing the name, make sure that the role and the value don't change. If you're changing the value, make sure that the name and the role don't change. So keep that in mind. Okay, so now let's go ahead and look at it. I think the typical one is the button, but we'll see which ones that each of them are using. Okay, so we'll start with the first one, which is Mark Szymanski's version. Using a single icon, let's go ahead and inspect and see what is the HTML. So we have as the starting HTML a button element. Let's go ahead and see the accessibility tree. And I'll open the accessibility tab as well. So for this element, what we have are the role is a button and the name is toggle dark mode. Okay, so since we're on the light mode, it's saying toggle dark mode. The word toggle is very ambiguous, so I would suggest you avoid using that word toggle. Give us the action word, like, okay, is it going to be activating the dark mode? Is it going to enable the dark mode? Is it going to turn on the dark mode? Something that is more action oriented rather than an ambiguous term like toggle. Toggle is like in between. It's not telling you exactly here or there, just in between. So avoid using the word toggle. But okay, we have a button with the name toggle dark mode. And then there are no aria-checked, aria-pressed, because I can see from the computed properties that the name is toggle dark mode, the role is button, and it doesn't have any other aria information. So no property or state change. Okay, let's go ahead and now toggle the button. So the button changes, but it still remains as toggle dark mode. The role still remains as button, and there is no property or state change. So I think this has a problem already. But I think Mark already mentioned that everything was built using AI, so there will always be something that needs to change. But this is not really a good pattern because nothing is changing. So a screen reader user will be lost because there is no change in name, there is no change in the states, there is no change in the role. Nothing changes. So only visually, we can see a change visually, but to a screen reader, nothing changes. So there needs to be a little bit of tweaking. At least it works with the mouse. Let's see if it works with the keyboard. So I press the space bar. Okay, so it works with the mouse or the keyboard. The only thing is that there is no feedback given to a screen reader user. Okay, let's look at the second pattern. It's a similar pattern. Let's see what they did. Inspect. And we also have a button with a type of button. Let's go ahead and check the accessibility tree. So it's a button and it has the name switch to dark theme. So it's telling you exactly what is going to happen. You're going to switch to the dark theme. So at least this is a better language and it's a button. Let's see if there's any state or property. So it's only the name and the role. They did not add any aria-checked, aria-pressed. So what I'm assuming now is that when I click on the button, the name should change since they don't have any states change. We click on it. And we can now see that the name changed to switch to light theme. And it's a button. And there's still no aria-checked, aria-pressed. So this is good. It's a bit problematic to some screen readers because screen reader users don't get that change of name announced to them. But something like VoiceOver, it will still tell you that an action was taken. So the user can now press Shift Tab and Tab again to now see what is the new name. So it's not very bad, but it's not the best when it comes to screen readers. But yeah, at least this is a working solution. I like it. I think Josh Gomo did something similar. Let me go ahead and inspect it. So he's using a button element. Let's go ahead and check the accessibility tree. And it has a name, activate dark mode. So like I said, it's giving you more of the action, activate dark mode, rather than toggle dark mode. So we have the name and the value. And I think for this one, they also don't have any aria-checked or anything. So really just the name, the role, and that's it. So this is also good. So what I'm expecting is that when I now click on the button, the name should change and nothing else. Let's click on it. One nice thing about it is that it gives you that clicking sound using JavaScript, so it's good. So now we know that, okay, it's activated the dark mode, and now the name changed to activate light mode, and it's a button. So this is also good. Now let's go ahead and see the next one. For the edge pattern, inspect it, and it also uses a button. So I think buttons are the most popular version. Let me go ahead and check out the accessibility tree. And for this one, it says, oh, okay, so it has a role equal to switch, which can change it from a button to a switch. So we have switch, and then it has the color scheme light, and then click to toggle. And let's go ahead and look at the accessibility tree. Okay, so it says it's a role equal to switch. It has this aria-checked equal to false. So that means now that we are saying aria-checked, it means that we should not change the name when we click. The only thing that should change when we click is the aria-checked property. Let's see if that happens. Let me click on it. Okay, so now we have switch, color scheme dark. So it actually changed the name. Color scheme dark, click to toggle. Why this is a problem is that what a screen reader user is going to hear, not in these exact words, is basically going to hear that color scheme dark, switch on. So that means the dark mode is on. But then when you now switch to light mode, what you're going to hear is color scheme light, switch off. So am I switching off the light mode, or am I switching off the dark mode? Like, it becomes very confusing to a screen reader user. Like when you start having switch on, switch off, that's why it says stick to one. If you're going to have a state that changes, then make sure the name remains the same. Just remain as the color scheme. And I think this whole switch should not even be used in the first place, because you're not really switching one thing on or off. What you're doing is you are switching between two different color schemes. The role equal to switch is specifically for when you're switching something on and off. So when you're switching the lights on and off, then you can use this switch. And if you're going to do that, that means it's not really color scheme light. Oh, you're just going to say color scheme on, color scheme off, which then becomes confusing to a screen reader user. So I think, first of all, this click to toggle should be removed. A user already knows that the switch or a button should be clicked. So the click to toggle should be removed. Then the color scheme light, if you're going to be changing the name from color scheme light to color scheme dark, I would say remove this role equal to switch and the aria-checked. Only the name should change. But if you want to be changing the aria-checked property, then make sure the name remains constant, and it should be something that is easy to understand, that clicking on it is going to turn that thing on. Clicking on it with the checked property turned off is going to turn it off. So yeah, I hope that is understandable. Then let's look at the next one. WP Accessibility Day. I think they are using two separate buttons. Yeah, so two separate buttons. So what they're now doing is using the other property called aria-pressed. So what aria-pressed now does is, I don't know if you remember with those toys back in the day, where you have a remote control for a toy car. When you press the button, as long as the button is pressed down, the car moves. The moment the button has been released, the car stops. So that's the whole point about this aria-pressed. So aria-pressed means that when it's true, that means that action is happening at that point in time. For example, we have like your toolbar in your rich text editor. You have that bold icon. The moment the bold icon is active, as long as it is depressed or is active, your text will be bold. The moment you release the bold icon, then the rest of your text will not be bold. So that's how you should think about it. So what they're now doing is that they're having two buttons depending on which one you're on. So the screen reader user will hear, let me go to the accessibility tree. So when a screen reader is on the first button, they will hear enable light mode, and then they will hear the property, which is the aria-pressed equal to true. So they say something like enable light mode pressed. Then if they go to the other one, you now say enable dark mode not pressed. The other options are with like drop downs. Let me go ahead and inspect it and see what they used. Okay, so they are using buttons as well. So I think button is the consensus. Most of them are using buttons. So we have a button with the name switch color theme button. So when we click on that button, let's see what it has as the properties. Okay, so aria expanded. So that means it's telling you that this is a drop-down element. So when I click on it, the element has been expanded, and then I'll have a list of other elements that I can check. It's almost like an accordion, where you have an accordion, you click on the accordion, it brings out the drop-down. Let's look at the last one. Inspect. This is a button as well. So all of them are using buttons. So I go ahead and check the accessibility tree. So it's a button that has the name switch color mode, and it has aria expanded as well because it's going to have a drop down. So when I click on it, the drop down happens. Let me go and inspect the drop down elements. Okay, so this one has a list of buttons. So each of them is a button within a list. So it shows you a list of buttons. When I click on that button, it activates that element. Although I'm not sure how you will know what color theme you are on currently. So that is something that may need to be adjusted because it doesn't actually show you what is the current active theme. It only just shows you that there are 3 items. You click on one of those items, it performs the action, but doesn't really tell you, okay, now what theme am I on? Okay, so now we have the other ones. Let's go ahead and inspect it and see what they use. Okay, so for this one, there's a field set and legend. And if I go ahead and access the accessibility tree, so they are using radio buttons, basically. I believe that is the same thing that Tailwind are using as well. Inspect. Okay, so we have the divs and spans, but I think if I go into the accessibility tree, they should probably be using, they're using a radio group with radio buttons. So they're also using radio buttons. And when you click on each of them, because they're radio buttons, the thing that is changing is the checked property. So when I click on any of them, let's say click on the dark mode, you can see that it changes and the aria-checked property changes to true for that element. The others are false. So the aria-checked property is changing, but the label is not changing. So that's the important bit. If you're changing aria-checked, do not change the label. If you're changing the label, then do not add any aria-checked, aria-pressed, or any of those aria information. So that's it for the HTML. And now I'll just quickly check out with a screen reader and see how a screen reader will announce all of these properties. So since I'm on a Mac, I'll be using VoiceOver. So let's see the first example with Makshimansky's version. So I'll turn on VoiceOver now.
VoiceOver on Chrome. Start learning. Navigation.
So now I'm on the link before the button for dark mode switcher. Let's see how it's now announced to a screen reader. So let me press the tab key now.
Toggle dark mode button group.
So it says toggle dark mode button group. For a screen reader user, what does that actually mean? Does that mean if I click on it, it will activate the dark mode, or it will not activate the dark mode? It just says toggle dark mode. Well, now let's go ahead and press the control option space to basically press enter. See, nothing is being translated to a screen reader user because there is no change of anything. There's no change of state or name or anything. So a screen reader user, thankfully with VoiceOver, it gives you the clicking sound to make you aware that a button was clicked. But any other thing is not announced to a screen reader. And if I go Shift Tab,
link,
and then Tab again,
toggle dark mode button group. You are currently on a button.
So even though I'm in the dark mode, it still tells me toggle dark mode. It doesn't really change anything. So that's the problem with the first one. Now let's go to the second one and see how that's announced to a screen reader. So we're on the focusable element before our dark mode switcher. So let me press the tab key now.
Switch to dark theme, button, group, banner.
So it says switch to dark mode. Then it tells us it's a button. So now if I press the control option space, it should now switch to dark mode. And again, nothing is announced to a screen reader. Why? Because we are changing the name, not the state. So screen reader users do not present change of the name. The only way you can know that the name has changed if you press Shift Tab.
Link. Switch to light theme, button.
If you press Shift Tab and Tab again, it will now change the name to the current name, which is now switched to light theme button. Is good with VoiceOver because VoiceOver always gives you that click action that something was taken. So when I hear that click action, I will now press Shift Tab and Tab again to hear what's changed, what name or value changed. So it's good, but not the best experience for some screen reader users. Let's look at just
Group. Activate dark. Visited. Visit. Cackle. Good. Let's search. Disable. Activate dark mode. Button. Group.
So it says activate dark mode button group. It doesn't tell you any change of states because they did not add any aria pressed or any of those aria checked properties. So if I press Ctrl Shift space,
activate light mode.
Oh, theirs actually presents the change of name. I believe it's because of the JavaScript that he added. So Josh's version, it looks like the best because although it's only having a change of name, it announces that change of name to a screen reader. Let me try it again. Control Option space.
Activate dark mode.
So the change of name is announced to a screen reader because of the JavaScript that he added. I need to figure out what JavaScript he added. That's something that I'll probably be using on my own as well. But yeah, this is turning out to be the best version so far in terms of how it's announced to screen readers. Okay, so now we are on the link before the dark mode switcher. And let's press the tab key and see how it is announced to a screen reader.
Color scheme, light. Click to toggle off, switch, banner. You are currently on color scheme, light. Click to toggle off, switch.
So it now tells you color scheme, light. Click to toggle off, switch. So am I toggling off the color scheme or how does that actually happen? So that whole point of click to toggle should be removed. The checked states should also probably be removed. It should not even have that rule. It should use like the first four, which just changes the name. And I think Josh's version with the JavaScript to at least still have that announcement of the change of name to a screen reader. I think I need to figure out how we did that. But I think that's the best version because right now this one is a bit confusing. It's telling you what is the current state, which is the color scheme light, but then it's a switch, and then it's telling you off and on state. So it's a lot of information jumbled together that is confusing to screen reader users. So something needs to change in this version. Let's look at the next one. So with the WP Accessibility Day version, let's see now I'm on the focusable element before the dark mode switcher. So I'll press the tab key.
Enable light mode, selected, toggle button, banner.
Okay, so let's now press Ctrl Option Space and see if that does anything.
Selected.
So that means the light mode has been selected. So to get the dark mode, you now have to press the tab key.
Enable dark mode, toggle button. You are currently on a toggle button.
So now press Ctrl Option Space.
Selected.
So it now tells me that the enable dark mode has been selected. That means the dark mode is the active one.
Switch color theme, collapsed, button, banner. You are currently on a button. Let's switch color theme.
So it says switch color theme, collapsed button. So now we know that, okay, it is a button that is going to expand because it's currently collapsed. Okay, what are we going to do? We want to expand it. So let me click on it. So Ctrl Option Space.
Switch color theme, expanded, button.
So now we know, okay, switch color theme, expanded button. Let me press the tab key to know what is the different elements inside of it. So tab.
OS default, button, list 3 items.
Okay, so that's the first one is OS default. Second one,
light, button, dark, button.
So it tells us the name of the 3 buttons that are there. That is OS default, light, and dark. But it doesn't tell you what the current state is. So that is one challenge with this whole drop-down type of list. it's good that you can choose the one that you want, but it is challenging because you don't even know which one you chose. Let's look at the aria-label version.
Link. Switch color mode. Collapsed. Button. You are currently.
So it's similar. It says switch color mode button. If I press Ctrl Option space.
Switch color mode. Expanded. Button. Light theme. But dark theme. Button. Yellow theme. Button.
It tells me all of them: light theme button, dark theme button, yellow theme button. But similar to the previous one, you don't really know what is the currently active button. So you just have to guess. That's the limitation with this whole drop-down method. I will have to research it a bit better to see how it can be improved. If you know, let me know in the comments. Now let's look at the last two options.
Flag mode. Theme. Link. Flag mode. Banner.
Let's press the tab key.
System default theme. Selected. Radio button. 1 of 3. Theme. Group.
Okay, so now this one is easier to understand. It tells me which one is selected because it's using natively interactive elements, which are the radio buttons. So it tells me that the OS default one is the one that is selected. And because it tells me it's a radio button, it means that I have to mentally note that I have to switch to the arrow keys. So now I have to use the arrow keys to move between the three. So let's see. Arrow right.
Dark theme. Selected. Radio button. 2 of 3. Light theme. Selected. Radio button. 3 of 3.
Okay, so that means I have to use the arrow keys for it to work. Let's see if I press the tab key and if that will work.
Link. Light theme.
So the tab key doesn't work. So mentally I have to note that because there are a list of 3 items that look like a toolbar, I should note that I have to switch to arrow keys for navigation. That is something that I have to do, although it announces properly to a screen reader, so a screen reader user will know how to interact with it. It announces everything well, easy to understand. So let's look at the last one.
System theme. Select heading level 3. Link. System theme. Selected. Radio button. Group. 1.
Okay, this is system theme selected radio button. So I know, okay, I have selected the system theme. The only challenge that it's not telling me what the radio group is, because ideally it's supposed to tell me what the radio group is. So like color theme, radio group. But because there is no legend to the radio group, so it doesn't really tell you the name of all the entire group, only the name of the item that you're currently on. So I press the arrow keys.
Light theme. Selected. Radio button. Group. 2 of 3. Dark theme. Selected. Radio button. Group. 3 of 3.
So I think this method also works well with the radio group. The only thing that you just need to make sure that you remember to wrap everything in the field set with the role equal to radio group, and then remember to put a legend that tells us that it's a maybe color theme or something like that. That will help us to understand the entire radio group. Let me know in the comments which one you think is the best. There is the pattern with buttons that act as a single button that switches between different icons. There is the pattern with 2 separate buttons. There is the pattern with drop downs of buttons. And then there is the pattern of the radio buttons. So let me know which one you think is more intuitive, and the whole argument about what should be shown if you're on the light mode. Should it show the light mode icon like the sun, or should it show the dark mode icon like the moon when you're on the light mode? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.